Today, I want to talk to you about domain number 5 of the CISSP exam, Identity and Access Management. It deals with various topics such as authentication, authorization, identification, identity assurance levels, authentication assurance levels, federation assurance levels, tokens, OAuth. It's very important for you to understand this. Jump into this topic with me, Hacker Black, and I'll see you on the other side. Tap in.
Domain 5. Identity and Access Management, IAM Domain Objectives. Identify standard terms for applying physical and logical access controls to environments related to their security practice. Apply physical and logical access controls to environments with relation to the environments or access controls security practice. Define the process of user and systems access review. Apply the appropriate control types or categories for provisioning and deprovisioning of identities. Classify various identification, authentication, and authorization technologies and for use in managing people, devices, and services. Differentiate the languages and protocols that are related to roles and systems that support federation. Select the appropriate technologies and protocols for establishing a federated environment that satisfies business requirements. Appraise various access control models to meet business security requirements. Name the significance of accountability in relationship to identification, authentication, and auditing. Domain agenda. Control physical and logical access to assets, identity and access provisioning, lifecycle identification and authentication of people, devices, and services, identity management, implementation, implement and manage authorization mechanisms, accountability, domain review. Module 1. Control physical and logical access to assets. Module objectives. Identify standard terms for applying physical and logical access controls to environments related to their security practice. Apply physical and logical access controls to environments with relation to the environments or access controls security practice. Systems. Access control, authorization, and restriction of assets as specified by business and security requirements. Logical access control system, automated system, controlling an individual's ability to access computer systems. Physical access control system, automated system that maintains passage of people or assets through a controlled opening. Logical and physical access control systems. Physical access control, for example, man-trap. Logical access control. For example, client or server login access. Devices. Hardware or software access control, tokens, biometric readers. Facilities case, Department of Homeland Security. What distinct roles can you locate within the physical access control systems, PACS applications? 4 areas. What are general security roles that can be used as placeholders for the PACS application roles? Name the logical or physical systems that are described in the PACS application. What assumptions could you make about the nature of the information related to identification in the PACS application cited below? Module 2. Identity and Access Provisioning Lifecycle. Module objectives. Define the process of user and systems access review. Apply the appropriate control types or categories for provisioning and deprovisioning of identities. User access review. Enforces security policy. Continues over the lifecycle of access. Mitigates vulnerabilities associated with aggregation. Concludes with termination of access. System account access review. Presents often exploited vulnerability for attackers. Securing begins with renaming account. Some system accounts further complicated by being service accounts. Provisioning and deprovisioning. Provision a user account and apply user permissions. Modify user permissions. Deprovision user account and end user permissions. Activity, identify the roles and control types and categories of provisioning and deprovisioning. Instructions. Working together in small teams, answer the questions below. What additional controls, choose from the CIA triad, could be added to each of the 3 phases of the process flow? Add control types. Add control categories. What roles can you identify in the process flow, i.e., custodian, data owner, etc.? Module 3. Identification and authentication of people, devices, and services. Module objectives. 1. Classify various identification, authentication, and authorization technologies for use in managing people, devices, and services. Identity management implementation. These are the 4 elements of identity management implementation: identification, authentication, authorization, accountability, session management. RFC 2965 provides an example of session management with cookies. All transaction requests are maintained and tracked as a user engages requests from a website. Registration and proofing of identity. NIST SP 863-3 contains 3 levels of assurance for digital identities. Aisle 1, self-asserted. Aisle 2, remote or in person. Aisle 3, verified by authorized credential service provider. Module 4. Identity Management Implementation. Module Objectives. Differentiate the languages and protocols that are related to roles and systems that support Federation. Select the appropriate components for a federated environment relevant to business requirements. Federated Identity Management, FIM. Federated Identity Management, FIM, is specified and sought for use between different organizations or entities that need to share resources or have users in common. Services that provide federation. Security Assertion Markup Language, SAML. Open Authorization, OAuth. Security Assertion Markup Language, SAML. Roles. Identity Provider, IDP. Service Provider or Relying Party. User Principal. Security Assertion Markup Language, SAML. Components. Assumptions. Findings. Protocols. Profiles. Open Authentication. Roles. Resource Owner. Authorization Server. Resource Server. Client Application. Integrate identity management as a third-party service. On-premise. Cloud. Activity. Select the appropriate components for a federated environment linking 2 or more companies' discrete resources. Instructions. As a team, reflect upon and discuss actual business needs within your corporation. Each team should allow every participant to relate business needs within each company. Instead of contributing to or jumping to a conclusion on what solution there might be, each participant should ask deeper questions of the presenter to uncover additional insights into the environment. Expose assumptions by asking why a thing is so or to give an example of a statement shared. Create a business case for utilizing either OAuth or SAM or both. What are actual business drivers? Also select if it should be solved on-premise or in the cloud and why. Create analogous connections between the roles in SAM and OAuth. Module 5. Implement and manage authorization mechanisms. Module Objectives. 1. Appraise various access control models to meet business security requirements. Types of access control. NIST SP 800-192 specifies the following types of access control: discretionary access control, DAC mandatory access control, MAC non-discretionary access control, NDAC role-based access control, RBAC rule-based access control, RBAC attribute-based access control, ABAC. Activity. Select the appropriate access control type, rule, role, attribute, etc., for specific business needs. Instructions. As a team, reflect upon and discuss actual business needs within your corporation. Each team should allow every participant to relate business needs within each company. Instead of contributing to or jumping to a conclusion on what solution there might be, each participant should ask deeper questions of the presenter to uncover additional insights into the environment. Expose assumptions by asking why a thing is so or to give an example of a statement shared. Create a business case for utilizing the previously reviewed access control methods. Use the best examples from each participant for each method. Module 6. Accountability. Module Objectives. 1. Name the significance of accountability in relationship to identification, authentication, and auditing. Accountability. Ensuring that account management has assurance that only authorized users are accessing the system and that authorized users are using the system properly. Module 7. Domain Review. Domain Summary. Identity and Access Management, IAM, includes controls related to physical and logical access to assets along with managing an identity and access provisioning lifecycle. The essential elements of an access provisioning lifecycle include a full range of items under system management related to people, devices, and resources. Identification, authentication, and authorization ensure that the right users are accessing the system and that the correct usage of resources is happening.
Make sure you bang that bell icon if you want to see more content like this. Also, check out the links below to the audiobook where you can catch the entire series. We do a deep dive into all of these domains, more than 10 minutes. It's gonna be hours of material. If you're gonna get all 8 domains, more than 8 hours of material, questions, answers, domain reviews, definitions, terminologies, standards, and more. We wanna keep you up to date with what's going on with the CISSP. If you wanna pass this exam, if you wanna make more money, just tap in.